Story number 1, Walkthrough. I got the call about the boys' property on a Tuesday. Foreclosure inspection, final walk through before closing. The house was a 1970s ranch on the outskirts of town. Nothing unusual. I've done maybe 300 of these. You learn to move fast, document everything, and get out. The seller answered the door before I could knock. Middle-aged man, maybe early 50s, wearing a faded Carhartt jacket. He introduced himself as Dale. He said he'd been expecting me. I explained the standard protocol owners are asked to vacate during inspections. It's in the paperwork. Liability, mostly. But also because people tend to follow you around and interrupt the process. Dale nodded like he understood, then said he'd like to stay anyway. Said it was his childhood home. He hadn't seen it in years, and the bank was taking it, and he just wanted to walk through one more time. I should have been firm. I should have told him no. But there was something in how he said it that made me think it was reasonable. People get sentimental about houses. I told him fine, but he'd have to stay out of my way. We started in the living room. The place smelled like every foreclosed house I've ever been in. Closed rooms, dust, the faint staleness of a space that's been abandoned. But underneath that was something else. Fresh cigarette smoke, recent. I made a note on my clipboard. No smoking clause in the agreement. Violation. Dale drifted behind me as I moved through the rooms, checking baseboards, outlets, the condition of the carpet. He didn't say much, just followed. I documented water stains in the master bedroom, a crack in the bathroom tile, some soft spots in the kitchen linoleum. Standard stuff. I was already thinking about my next appointment, a condo across town at 5 o'clock. That's when I noticed the doors. We'd moved from the kitchen into the hallway, and I heard a soft click behind us. I turned and saw Dale's hand still raised, keys in his grip. The kitchen door was closed now, locked. I hadn't heard him lock it, but I'd heard the sound. I was sure of it. I didn't say anything. Maybe he was just being careful, securing the house. But then we moved into the hallway bedroom, and when I turned to leave, the door clicked shut again. Locked. I could hear the deadbolt engage. I looked at him. He was putting the keys into his jacket pocket. "Why are you locking the doors?" I asked. My voice was normal. I was being reasonable. "Just securing things," he said. "As we go." That didn't make sense. We were still inside. But I didn't push it. I told myself it was fine. I'd get out the way I came in. The front door would still be accessible. It had to be. We continued down the hallway. The musty smell was stronger now, mixed with that fresh cigarette smoke. It was getting into my clothes, my hair. I was thinking about the condo appointment, wondering if I'd have time to grab coffee before heading across town. Normal thoughts. Keeping myself steady. Then Dale asked me about my schedule. "Do you have appointments after this?" he said. Just casual conversation, the way someone might ask about the weather, I said. I didn't elaborate. "You must work late sometimes," he said. "Inspections, they can take a while." "Sometimes," I said. "You live alone?" he asked. I didn't answer that. I just kept walking, moving toward what I thought was the hallway that led to the front entrance. But Dale was behind me, and when I glanced back, he'd shifted his position. He was standing in the middle of the hallway now, not quite blocking it, but close. His hand was still in his jacket pocket. "Does anyone know you're here?" he asked. That's when something in my chest tightened. Not panic yet, just a sudden, cold clarity. The way your body knows something before your mind catches up. I told him I needed to check the basement. I said it calmly, like it was part of my standard inspection. He nodded and gestured toward the basement door. I could see it at the end of the hallway. I moved toward it, and he followed. The basement was unfinished, concrete floor, exposed pipes. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling. I could see a row of small windows near the top of the far wall, the kind that let in ground level light. They looked old but intact. I was already calculating whether I could fit through one. Dale stood at the base of the stairs watching me. I moved to the far wall, pretending to inspect the foundation. My clipboard was in my hand. Metal frame, solid. I could feel my heart moving faster now, but I kept my breathing even. I didn't let myself think too much. I just raised the clipboard and swung it at the nearest window. The glass shattered loud, louder than I expected. I heard Dale move behind me, heard him say something, but I was already moving. I knocked the remaining shards away with the clipboard, grabbed the window frame, and pulled myself up. My jacket caught on something, and I felt it tear, but I was through. I was outside. The lawn was overgrown, tall grass and weeds. I didn't run toward the front of the house. I ran toward the tree line at the back, then circled around to my car. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my keys. I got the car started and drove. I didn't look in the mirror. I didn't look back at the house. I drove straight to the police station and filed a report. They took it seriously enough. They said they'd look into it. They asked if he'd touched me, if he'd made any explicit threats. He hadn't. He'd just asked questions and locked doors and stood in my way. They said they'd send someone to the house, but by then he was probably gone. 2 days later, I was organizing my inspection files. I was putting my business cards back into my bag, the ones I always carry for clients and contractors. That's when I felt them. A stack of cards, maybe 15 or 20, bundled together. I pulled them out. They were my cards. My name, my number, my company logo. But I didn't put them there. I always know exactly how many cards I have. And then I remembered. The closets. Every closet I'd opened during that walk through had small holes in the back wall. Tiny holes, the kind you'd make with a pushpin. I'd thought they were old, part of the house's history, but they weren't old. They were recent. The wood around them was still fresh. He'd pinned my business cards inside every closet in that house. Dozens of them, probably, maybe more. And he'd done it before I arrived. He'd been waiting for me. He'd known I was coming. I don't know why he did it. I don't know what he was planning. The police never found him. They searched the house and found nothing. No cards, no evidence of anything. They said maybe I was mistaken about the closets, that I was remembering things wrong because I was scared, but I know what I saw. And I know those cards are still in my bag, sitting on my desk, and I haven't been able to bring myself to throw them away. Because I keep thinking about what would have happened if I hadn't broken that window, if I'd stayed in that house any longer. I still do inspections. It's my job. But I never go alone anymore, and I always tell someone exactly where I'm going and when I'll be back. And every time I open a closet, I look for the holes. Story number 2, fuel stop. I pulled into the Flying J at 3 in the morning because my insulin was due in 40 minutes, and I needed to be somewhere I could sit still for 5 minutes. The fog was thick that night, the kind that turns headlights into useless cones of yellow. I'd been driving since Amarillo, 12 hours straight, and my blood sugar was holding steady at 130, which meant I had time, but not much. The attendant who came out to activate my pump was thin, maybe mid-50s, with a name tag that said Dale. He had that look some night shift people get. Like he'd been awake too long and was running on something other than sleep. "Making good time from Amarillo," he said. Not a question. I didn't remember telling him where I'd come from. I was sure I hadn't. I just pulled up to the pump like I always do, got out, and he was there. "Yeah," I said. Roads were clear. "You'll probably want to fuel up quick," he said. "You're still planning to stop in Tulsa like you usually do on this run, right?" That's when something shifted, not dramatically. Just a small wrongness that I couldn't quite name. I've been driving long haul for 19 years. I know the routine. Fuel stops are anonymous. You pump, you piss, you pay, you leave. Nobody knows your route unless you tell them or the company tells them. And the company does share logistics data with fuel partners. I knew that. Inventory management, staffing, all that. So maybe it made sense that Dale knew my usual stops. Except it didn't feel like it made sense. "Yeah," I said. "Probably. I went inside to use the bathroom and grab a coffee I didn't need. That's when I saw the binder. It was open on the counter behind the register, and Dale was in the back room, so I could see it clearly. The pages were printed photographs of trucks. Different angles, different times of day. Some were blurry, like they'd been taken from a distance. And on one of them, I recognized my rig's number, the one on my door. The photo was dated 2 nights ago, at a truck stop in Guthrie. I remembered that stop. I'd fueled there at 11 p.m., grabbed a sandwich, and left. I closed the binder and walked to the coffee station with my hands feeling strange and loose. The rational part of my brain was already working. Trucking companies monitor their fleet. They take photos for insurance purposes, maintenance tracking, theft prevention. The fuel partners probably get copies. Maybe Dale was just doing his job, keeping records. Maybe I was tired and paranoid and reading threat into routine. But the other part of my brain, the part that's kept me alive on the road, was saying something else. It was saying that Dale's eyes had been too knowing, that he'd mentioned Tulsa like he was testing me, that the binder had been open on purpose, or at least not closed when I came in. I paid for the coffee and went back outside. Dale was standing by my truck, by my passenger door specifically. His hand was on the handle. "Hey," he said when he saw me. "I wanted to talk to you about something." "I'm good," I said. "It's about your route," he said. "It's safer if we talk inside the cab, just for a minute." That was the moment everything crystallized. Not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Like he already knew I'd refuse. Like he was reading from a script he'd practiced. I unlocked the driver's side and got in. I didn't open the door for him. I locked it again immediately and started the engine. Dale was already moving toward the front of the truck, and I didn't think about what I was doing. I just pulled forward. I heard the fuel hose tear away from the pump. It sounded like something breaking inside the engine. I didn't stop. I drove out of the lot and onto the highway, and I didn't look in the mirror until I'd gone a 1/4 mile into the fog. My hands were shaking. I drove for 3 miles before I felt steady enough to pull over at a wide spot on the shoulder. Then I called dispatch. "This is Unit 472, I said. "I need to report an incident at the Flying J on 64. Driver safety issue, and I've damaged a fuel hose." The dispatcher took my statement. I told her what happened. Left out the part about the binder and the photographs, because I wasn't sure how to explain it without sounding insane. Just said the attendant had acted aggressively and I'd left quickly. There was a pause. "Unit 472. That location had a staffing issue about a month ago. The night attendant there, Dale Hutchins, was terminated for harassing drivers. We got 3 complaints. mostly about him asking questions about their routes and schedules. My mouth went dry. He was fired. Yeah, about a month ago. Why? Is he still working there? I didn't answer right away. I was thinking about the binder, about the photographs, about how long it would take to collect all those images. I don't know, I said. But he was there tonight. Highway patrol showed up about 30 minutes later. They found the station abandoned. No one inside. The pumps were still on, the lights still running, but Dale was gone. The patrol officer called me back an hour later to say they'd found something taped to the office door. It was Dale's resignation letter, dated 3 weeks before tonight, and paperclipped to it was a photograph. My truck, taken from the side, clear shot of my number. On the back, in handwriting that wasn't mine, was my insulin schedule. Times and dates, accurate down to the minute. I'm still driving. I had to. The bills don't stop. But I check my mirrors more now, not just for traffic. And I've started varying my routes, even when it costs me time and money. I've stopped at different fuel stops. I've changed my patterns. The thing that sits with me, the thing I can't quite shake, is that the resignation letter was dated 3 weeks ago, which means Dale knew he was leaving, which means he had a plan, which means whatever he was doing with those photographs and that schedule wasn't something he was doing on company time. It was something he was doing for himself. Story number 3, pool closing. I was supposed to close the pool at 11. It was 10:50, 8 when I started the announcement. Pool is now closed. All guests must exit the water. We will be locking the gates in 5 minutes. I said it twice, the way they trained us. The guy in the deep end didn't stop swimming. He was doing slow laps, the kind where you're barely moving, just pushing yourself back and forth in that methodical way. I figured he was drunk or had his headphones in or something. It happened maybe once a month. I started my checklist. Skim the surface, test the chemicals, stack the deck chairs. The chlorine smell was thick that night. The air felt heavy with it, humid and stinging. My eyes were already burning a little, but that was normal. I'd worked here for 3 months, and my eyes always stung by the end of a shift. The guy kept swimming. I did the announcement again at 11:05. The pool is now closed. Please exit the water immediately. Nothing. He just kept going back and forth. The water was perfectly still except for him, and the tile around the pool looked dark and wet under the fluorescent lights. I remember thinking the lights made everything look too bright and too dark at the same time, like the space between them didn't exist. By 11:15, I was almost done with my checklist. I'd skimmed the leaves, tested the pH, stacked most of the chairs. The guy had finally stopped swimming. He was standing in the shallow end now, just standing there, facing my direction, not moving toward the exit, just standing. I watched him for a second. He wasn't looking at me, exactly. His eyes were on me, but they weren't focused. Like he was looking through me or past me. It was the kind of thing where you notice it, but you don't want to think about it too hard. I walked over to the pool edge. Hey, we're closed. You need to get out now. He didn't respond for a few seconds. Then he just started walking toward the locker room. No acknowledgement, no apology. Just climbed out, dripping water across the tile, and disappeared into the locker room corridor. I told myself he was definitely drunk. I finished my checklist. The last thing was locking up the equipment closet near the pool entrance. It's a small room with the chemical supplies, the testing kit, the hose reels, and the staff lockers. I crouched down to lock the door, my hand on the padlock, when I heard wet footsteps behind me. I turned around. He was standing 3 feet away, still dripping, still in his swim trunks. His hair was wet and plastered to his forehead. "Hey," he said. His voice was calm. "Are you the one who works Tuesday and Thursday nights? I've seen you around campus." "Near Fletcher Hall." "A Fletcher Hall is my dorm building." I didn't say anything. I just stood up. "I think I've seen you in the mornings too," he said. "You usually have class around 9:30 on Thursdays, right? And you park in the north student lot." My hands felt cold. I didn't know this person. I had never spoken to him before in my life. I had never mentioned my college, my dorm, my schedule, anything. "I need to lock up," I said. "I was just being friendly," he said. I thought maybe. I grabbed the chemical hose from the wall mount, the one we use for mixing solutions. It was still connected to the spigot. I didn't think about it. I just grabbed it and sprayed. The chlorinated water hit his face and chest. He made a sound like he was surprised, and I dropped the hose and ran. I ran through the pool area exit, through the hallway, toward the front desk. I could hear him behind me for a second, shouting something about being friendly. And then I was at the front desk, and I was telling Derek, the night manager, that someone was following me and something was wrong. Derek called the police. They came maybe 10 minutes later. While we waited, Derek pulled up the security footage on his office computer. He was looking for the guy, trying to figure out what happened. That's when we saw it. At 9:43 p.m., while I was on the far side of the pool skimming leaves, the guy walked out of the locker room. But he didn't go to the pool. He went to the equipment closet. He opened it. He was inside for maybe 45 seconds. Then he came back out and went back to the locker room. At 10:21 p.m., he did it again. Same thing. Out of the locker room, into the closet, 40 seconds, back to the locker room. The officer watched it twice. Then he looked at me. "Do you keep anything in that closet?" he asked. "My locker," I said. "My staff file, my car keys, my student ID." The closet door had been locked both times, but he had opened it anyway. Like he had a key, or like the lock didn't matter. The police found him in the locker room. He said he was just swimming and didn't realize the pool was closed. He said he didn't know me. He said he was just being friendly when he mentioned Fletcher Hall because he goes to the same college and thought he recognized me. But he knew my Thursday schedule. He knew where I parked, and he had been inside my equipment closet twice. While I was working, they took him in for questioning. I don't know what happened after that. Derek told me I could go home. He said they'd review everything and call me if they needed anything else. I left the hotel at midnight. I drove home in the dark, and I kept checking my mirrors. I still check my mirrors. I still think about that closet, about how he opened it like he knew exactly what he was doing, like he'd been planning it. I haven't gone back to work. I'm not sure I will.